Hey everybody, I'm doing a follow-up video to the Climapod greenhouse review that I made last summer, or last fall I believe. I've had it for 1 year now. This is the Climapod Virtue 9x14 size with 6mm panels. So if you watched my first video, there were some issues that I had with it, and so I'd like to tell you how we've adapted to some of those and what I've been able to grow in it so far. So it is June 22nd, I believe, here in Maple Grove, Minnesota. It's Zone 4B, and it held up great over the winter. We got a lot of snow this winter. More snow than we normally get, actually, and it sheds snow incredibly easily. It really does not accumulate on the greenhouse more than 6 or 8 inches. We got a couple feet at one time of snow, and it didn't even accumulate that much. It continued to slide off throughout the snowstorm, so it's been really well with that. And there have been no structural deficiencies since we put it together. It's been very sturdy. So otherwise, right now this is still an experimental mode here, but I have planted my tomatoes and my peppers in the ground in the greenhouse. And I chose to do that because, and I also have a lemon tree in the pot there, and I chose to do that because of the heat factor at the greenhouse. These are tropical plants, and I thought that they would do best with that extra heat and give them a boost anyway, rather than being in my regular garden. So far it seems to be working. The soil in here I think it still needs a little bit of amending, and so some of these tomatoes are slightly stunted. The ones at the back are doing really well, actually, but I think it's from some soil deficiency in here, which I need to work on. And then peppers are doing great. It's, like I said, it's June 22nd, and I started these from seed in March, and we already have tiny little bell peppers starting to form. So they seem to be doing really well in here. And that big green one there in the center is a Tabasco, and that's actually the tallest one, and it's doing pretty well. So it gets to be pretty hot in here during the day. About 110, I think, is generally the maximum. I have the windows and doors wide open all day, and it self-regulates. It really only gets to 110, 120 during the day, and not any higher than that ever. But these plants like it. And in March, I actually got a bunch of heating mats here, and they are all plugged into this outlet down here. But I also so I started my seedlings in this greenhouse on these mats. These are all empty and rejects up here right now. I'm done with starting seeds right now in pots. So I had it like this, and then I also had a layer of plastic that went over and underneath this shelf as sort of like a mini greenhouse inside the greenhouse. And so the combination of that and the heating mats actually kept the soil at right around between 60 and 70 degrees all the time, even when it was 30 degrees outside. So that worked out really, really well. The only issue I had was we had just a cold snap in, I can't remember what month, right around Easter here, and things just got way too cold outside here, and it wasn't enough to keep the seedlings warm enough, so I had to move them back inside just temporarily until the weather got back to normal. Otherwise it's been great, that setup that I had. As far as starting seedlings, they grew out here wonderfully. I didn't have to adjust them from indoors to outdoors, which I normally would have done. I have much more space to work with out here, things like that. So I just got these heating mats off of Amazon. There's a few different brands I saw out there, but they worked great. I also have a temperature monitor, a soil monitor that was hooked up to my phone so I could see if they were getting too cold or anything out here. So, and then this shelf I've just been using for storage. It's pretty thin, so I put my heating mats over here, and that's how I set it up. I have some rain barrels at the back there. That's what you're seeing. So, everything is still intact. I am actually very happy with it. As far as what the temperature is like on a ongoing basis here, it's been, even in the winter time, it got, with the sun out, the greenhouse and the greenhouse all closed up, windows and doors, it could get up to 100 degrees in there in the middle of the winter. And I didn't have anything growing at that time, but I was still just monitoring the temperature to see what was going on. But then as soon as that sun went down, it lost all of its heat within a couple of hours, actually. So there were huge temperature swings with this in the winter. And when I'm getting closer to fall, I actually have these milk cartons that I'm planning to fill with water and then gather them around my plants to just retain a little bit more heat. That water is absorbing solar energy during the day, and then it's releasing it slowly at night. And then I also have some stones in there that I'll do that for as well. So the solid mass will absorb heat during the day and then release it at night to hopefully just regulate the temperature a little bit better than having these huge swings, and maybe get my crops to last a little bit longer. But that's still an experiment. So we'll see how that goes, and I can make another follow-up video in the fall to see what's still alive at that time. So, and like I said, I have these planted in the ground. I don't have a concrete foundation. I really wanted to see how much I could do as far as preserving my own heat and solar energy in this passively, and not be restricted by pots as well, because I wouldn't be able to grow large enough plants in pots. So I wanted to have more capacity and more ability to grow what I wanted by having them in the ground. So I have been watering things daily because, like I said, it does get very hot in here, and they're releasing a lot of water just to regulate their temperature. So they do need probably more water than if they were outside in their regular garden, just because of the heat factor. So, but it hasn't been too bad. So my tomatoes, I grew these from seed, started them in March, like I said. The lemon tree is actually doing really well. It really likes the heat. And I have, if I can focus there, well, there is a little baby lemon on the tip there, and there's a lemon down here, right there, a little guy. So that's been pretty fun to watch. What else? Yeah, it's worked out pretty well, actually. So just a few hiccups with the weather here in Minnesota, but otherwise it's been very, very cool to see things progress and to have this extra capacity. I have room for 3 big heating mats up here, which I normally would not be able to do in my indoor space. Much more limited inside the house than, so this is allowing me to have a lot more growing capacity, which was one of my goals. So I think that's it for now. If you guys have questions or comments, you can leave them on the video, and I always respond to them and try to be as informative and helpful as possible. So there you have it. I guess I'll do another video in the fall to see how things are. So thanks, everyone.